Let's get it started here. Like I said, it is 5 o'clock here on the West Coast, 8 o'clock there in Philadelphia as we gear up to start this pre-debate show, all the coverage, all the analysis that you need to know as we go into this debate. And hopefully you'll be better informed if you so choose to go into the ballot box on November 5th or before. In the meantime here, let's bring into the conversation our friend, Essie Cupp, Battleground host. She joins me. Essie, good to see you here. Happy debate night. I was just reminding the viewers, you know, how different tonight would have looked if all the events of the previous 2 or 3 months of the entire busy summer had not happened. Those are hypotheticals at this point. This is the moment. This is the reality that we are in right now. It's going to be Trump and it's going to be Harris on that debate stage in an hour's time. How did we get here?
This has been a roller coaster of an election for sure. What you would normally consider black swan events, right? A candidate literally dropping out midway through his campaign as the incumbent was one of those, but we've had several. And we've always known this race was going to be really tight. That's why at Battleground we focus on the swing states, but I don't think any of us anticipated just how wild it was going to be.
Essie, do you think in hindsight, looking at some of the recent polling, this is a jump ball. It's very, very close. That's what the polling suggests. I think the average poll of polls has Harris up only slightly against Trump here. But this is in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania, all things hinge on Pennsylvania, or so everyone says here. Harris needs Pennsylvania to win the election. Should she have gone with Josh Shapiro as her running mate, or is that a moot point at this point? Will it not matter, or should she have?
I think if she loses, that will be a thing people say.
Okay.
That yeah, had she maybe, because so Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes of any of the swing states. It has 19. That's why it's the big prize. And it's a very diverse state. It's hard to run it because you've got the population centers, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and State College, and then everything else around it is very, very red. And there are all kinds of voters in those red pockets. There are Hispanic voters in those red pockets and black voters and young voters. So it's hard to run in Pennsylvania, but both candidates really need it. She had an opportunity to pick not only a governor from a key swing state, but a very popular governor, right? Pennsylvania loves Josh Shapiro. So I think if she loses, people, you know, the way that they looked back at Hillary Clinton's loss to Donald Trump, they said she didn't go to Wisconsin, she didn't campaign enough in Michigan. I think that is the thing. She loses Pennsylvania that people will say, and we'll never know fully, but you know, I think it's a fair critique.
So as you know, and you've been following it, you've been covering it, that, you know, the Harris-Walz camp has been somewhat, I don't know if hesitant is the right word, and maybe not stonewalling is the right word, but they haven't done much media. They haven't done much kind of open format, off the cuff conversations, interviews traditionally with the mainstream media here. Yes, there was that joint interview they did many, many days after the convention with Dana Bash on CNN, your colleague there. Do they need to start doing more? Is the Harris nominee DNC sugar high coming to an end here? Is the virtuous cycle of the coverage coming to an end? There could be a lot of big crises in the next 50 plus days, you know, on the world stage, domestically here. Does she need to get out there more after this debate?
So we've been talking to swing state voters who are undecided, and the first thing they say as to why they're still undecided is they don't know Kamala Harris enough. And, you know, as soon as she was sort of the nominee, people like me were saying she's got to do interviews, she's got to do interviews, people don't know who she is. And the critique against us was that it was, you know, this inside the beltway, or sort of like the ego of journalists, right, you know, making this demand. But no, it is voters. It is voters telling us they want to see more of her. And the debate is something they were waiting for. They told us, these undecided voters in swing states said, I'm waiting for this debate to make up my mind. So in this way, this debate is much more momentous and impactful than debates usually are, because the very voters that Trump and Kamala Harris need to win are literally waiting for this moment to decide. But if they don't feel like they're getting enough from the debate, then absolutely, she will need, just very practically, to do more interviews where she answers more questions, where voters get more familiar with her. There's also a question about accountability, and that's the
Yeah,
job of the press, is to hold powerful people
right.
accountable, to ask questions. She has a record as a senator. She has a record as a vice president. She should have to answer questions about her record as well as questions about what she would do moving forward if she were president. And so I think those interviews will be really important for her, practically as well as philosophically.
That's so interesting because since she became the presumptive nominee, we've seen this narrative form that Harris has had to redefine herself in the national consciousness and conversation, even though having been vice president for the
Yeah.
last 3.5 years. She was a senator, of course. She was very prominent in California politics here. I guess my question to you is, what does that redefinition look like after tonight? This will be the first time many American news consumers and the electorate writ large will have seen her in this format since 2020, when she went up against Vice President Mike Pence here. And then there's the question of all of her policy platforms, the tenets of what she wants to do if elected president here. And there's been a lot of coverage about the fact that she has reversed some of her positions that she has taken, ones that were very, very progressive and left wing back when she ran for president in 2019 here. You're saying voters do care. They want to see her out there in interviews and traditional media formats as well. Do voters care anymore that these candidates reverse their policy positions, or is that just a fact of life that policy position reversals are just going to happen every cycle?
It's such a good question. And in many ways, Trump broke a lot of norms. And whether you think that was a good thing or a bad thing, it's just a fact. He broke a lot of norms. And so I think there is a lowered bar for things like consistency or intellectual honesty. And I don't think that inures to the benefit of voters, but it is what it is. The problem for Kamala Harris, though, is that Democrats hold their candidates to a very high standard. You saw that with Joe Biden. Democrats stayed home in Michigan on primary day because they were so mad at Joe Biden. They asked Joe Biden to do better on Gaza and all kinds of issues. So her natural constituents are going to hold her to a very high standard, and they do want answers to questions on her policies. And they're forgiving. They understand people changing their minds. They just want to know why. And specifically for undecided voters, we hear that they are concerned she's changed her positions to win. And I mean, that's a thing that politicians do, but they want to know that she's going to govern the way she's running and not just abandon, the things that she's now saying if she were to win. So I think she does have some issues there to address on consistency and on her policy specifics, both for those undecided voters, but also her own voters.
All right, SC, just lastly, because I know you got to go here. What are you watching for? We kind of spent this majority of the conversation about Harris, because we've already seen Donald Trump on a debate stage just a couple of months ago. So I think that's why I wanted to take the conversation Harris-centric and Harris-focused here. What else are you watching for?
No, that's a really smart point. We hear that from voters too. They know who Trump is.
Yeah.
Whether they like him or don't, they know who he is. They don't know who Kamala Harris is. And people like me who've covered her, we have a good sense of who she is. But my vote's not going to matter. I vote in Connecticut. My vote doesn't matter. Trust me. But the folks in these swing states really do. And so her performance tonight will be so crucial. She's got her base, just like Donald Trump has his base. But they're both vying for these undecideds in swing states, in particular, suburban women, young voters, and voters of color. So that is a hard dance to perform, right? But they've both got to win them over, and they need to do that on policy and substance. Those voters are telling us that the personality attacks from either side, both sides, however you see it, are not helping, are not working. That is not appealing to these undecided voters. They have real problems in their lives, and they want to know what these two people would do to solve them.
Yeah, that's what I'll be looking for. Will the substance overtake the vibes tonight, so to speak? SC, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for making time, and we'll talk soon.
Sure, thanks.